It is when you become vulnerable and you truly share all of who you are and are brave enough to share all of who you are that you really see great power.
Create your life.
Crée ta propre vie.
Create your life.
创造你的生活。
Create your life.
Crea la tua vita.
Create your life.
Ontsteek jou lewe.
You better create your life.
Create your life.
Create la vie.
Create your life.
Create your life.
One day she calls me and says, Tony, I got this job and you're the only one I want. So what do I have to do to get you to come work for me?
Yeah.
And I said, Miss Esther, I love you, but there ain't no way I'm working for Wal-Mart and there ain't no way I'm moving to Bentonville, Arkansas. So she was like, hush, boy, come over here and see me.
Okay.
So out of personal courtesy and professional courtesy, I went.
Yeah.
But I had no intention of doing anything well. I was going to do my thing, be a little average. You know, I will not trying to.
Hold on, so you switched. You stopped working at State Farm because she wanted you. I thought you said for professional courtesy, you was going to go and say hi.
Yeah.
You literally uprooted and said, okay,
for professional courtesy, I went to interview.
Okay.
Because she said, I want you to come talk.
Right.
I was like, okay, I'll come talk.
Okay.
But, you know, but if you want to waste your money like that, okay.
Yeah,
I don't want to hurt your feelings, so I'm going to show up and go to the interviews.
Right.
So I went and interviewed, talked to a whole bunch of people, and came on home. I thought, I've done my job. I'm out of here.
Right.
I'm good. I'm going to continue my life.
Right. They don't want me.
3 weeks later, we'd like to make this offer to you. An offer? Offer for what? And so they extended the offer to me, and I didn't say a word. There was silence on the phone. And the recruiter, her name was Denise Thomas, who, by the way, is one of my dearest friends today. So Denise says, I just gave you an offer of a lifetime, and I'm not getting any reaction. And I said, well, that's because this is not supposed to happen like this. This is not part of my plan. Operative word, my.
Right.
This is not supposed to happen this way. And so I said, I need some time. I just need some time to think about this. She said, okay, go take your time. And in my mind, I had made the decision that I was going to take the job.
That you weren't.
That I was not going to take it.
Okay.
But although I had decided to do that, I started having all these problems. I couldn't sleep. I wasn't eating. I was making silly mistakes at work. I felt uneasy. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I was even in church one Sunday, and pastor had an altar call, and I just fell apart at the altar. So bad that pastor turned service over to his assistant pastor and took me outside and said, okay, what's going on? And I was like, Pastor, I have no idea. I can't explain it to you. I don't know what it is, but you know, I can't sleep. I'm not eating right. You know, I'm making all these mistakes. I just feel anxious. I just do not feel peace at all. I don't feel peace. So the next day, that Sunday, I'm talking to my mother. And I'll tell you, that was the one of the 3 most pivotal times of my life that forever changed me, forever changed me. And so she and I would have a conversation every Sunday.
Okay.
7:30 p.m. Central Time.
All right.
And we would talk and do all kind of stuff. And then when the conversation was over, she would say, now, baby, before we hang up, I got a question for you. And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, baby. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, are you flowing with the river? And I said, yes, ma'am, I'm flowing with the river. Now, my friend, I had no idea what she was talking about. But I knew I had been on the phone for an hour and a half.
So he's flowing with that river.
And if I said no, we're gonna be on the phone for another hour and a half, and I gotta go to work tomorrow. It's Sunday night. I gotta go to work. No, so yeah, I'm flowing all right, y'all. I'm flowing. So that particular Sunday, I told her what was going on. Like I couldn't sleep and stuff.
You wasn't flowing with the
I didn't say all that. I just said like I just wasn't feeling right, that things weren't right. And she said, well, what's going on? I said, well, the only thing I can really think that's really like going on right now is that I got this job offer. And she said, oh, really? I said, yes, with Walmart. Oh, really? And I said, but I can't do it. And she said, why not? I said, because Walmart just don't do right by people. I had believed the hype, right? So no, lesson number 1: do your own homework.
Hey,
okay.
Hey,
but I had believed the hype, and she said, well, why you think they don't treat people right? Well, how you know they don't treat people right? Did you go to the store and talk to people? You got a store right there. You go talk to them? No. Well, how you know they don't treat people right? Well, I read it in the newspaper. Oh, so everything you read in the newspaper is true. Like the press has never lied about you. So I'm like, here we go. I'm getting ready to get mad. Yeah. And she knew it too.
So you was about to get mad?
I was about to get mad. She knew it. She knows me so. She knew me so well. And then she goes, so let's just say for the sake of argument, Tony.
Ooh.
Let's just say for the sake of argument. Okay, that the newspapers are right, that everything you heard is the truth. Did you ever think that maybe
you could make the change?
They realize that they're not getting it right, but they know you know how to get it right, and they're asking for your help to get it right.
All right, mama.
And I was like, oh, here we go.
What's your mom's name?
Barbara Jean.
Mama Jean.
Barbara Jean turned around and said what she said. And then she said, well, baby, you grown. Do whatever you want to do. But
that's for you better do this. That's code word for you better do what you know you're supposed to do.
But then she says, but let me tell you something.
There it is.
If you decide not to take that job, I don't ever want to hear you say one bad thing about Walmart because you had the opportunity to help them out and you chose not to. So mad. She said, baby, I know you're mad at me now, so I'm going to let you go. But before I let you go, got a question. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, are you flowing with the river? And I said, yes, ma'am, I'm flowing with the river. And that day she said to me, baby, you have to flow with the river because the river knows exactly where it's going. And she says, when you were born, the good Lord took you in the palm of his hands and he went to the river and he looked at it. And the river looked back and responded, yes, Lord. See, the good Lord didn't have to say nothing. He just looked at the river. And the river looked back and said, yes, Lord. And he gently placed you on that river. And the river's going to take you exactly where you're supposed to go. So stop fighting the river. Stop telling the river what to do. The river's always known what it's supposed to do. But keep in mind, baby, the river only made one promise to you, that it was going to get you where you're supposed to go. Right. Exactly. It never promised you it won't hit a rock every once in a while. Never promised you how fast or how slow it was going to go. It just promised you it was going to get you where you're supposed to go. And so in my indignant self, I go, well, if that's how it's going to be, I don't have to do anything because what's going to happen is going to happen.
You said that to her?
I said that to her.
Oh, boy.
And she said, baby, that's where you're getting it wrong. Because, see, you're confusing where power comes from. She said, it ain't about what happens to you. It's about what you decide to do with what happens to you. That's where the real power is in. It's in the unseen is where the power is. It's not in the seen. She said, it's just like the river. You can't be worried about the froth and the trash and the wind blowing up there and creating the waves and all that kind of stuff. That ain't where the power is. The power's in the undercurrent. That's what controls what happens in the river. It ain't the wind and the thing. It's the undercurrent that does it. You think that a storm is what causes the waters to get rough? Ain't it the storm? It's the undercurrent that does the gravitational pull and the undercurrent that creates all that mess that happens on top. So
I never even knew that.
Yeah. So I used to tell like, where you get all that stuff? She said, I don't know. So anyways, so she said, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So, but that forever changed my life because I realized at that point that everything happens the way that it's supposed to happen. Okay. That the plan is good, she would say. Baby, the plan for you is good, and the plan for you is perfect. I didn't say you're going to like the plan all the time. I didn't even say you're going to understand the plan all the time. But as the old hymn goes, you'll understand it better by and by. And so I said, but you do what you're going to do. I still wasn't convinced.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Even after all that, even though I knew after she done told me, I still wasn't halfway convinced.
I done told you.
Yes. But I went to a board meeting right after that. I sit on the board of the Center for Asian Pacific American Women. Okay. That's crazy. You know, I'm the only male and the only non-Asian sitting on that board.
Okay. Typical Tony fashion.
You know, which I love. Yeah. And they spoil me. These board members spoil me. Oh my goodness, these Asian women spoil me to death, and I love it. But anyways, during our board meeting, what I love about our board meetings is that before we start doing business, we have what is called a reconnect. Okay. We create a safe space, and it's an opportunity for board members just to let go. And to do what they need to do, say what they need to say. If they want to cry, you get to cry, because so often you can't find that safe space to do it.
How do you guys create that safe space, and what does that look like?
It all depends on who facilitates the reconnect. Right? It happens in all different kind of ways.
Now, walk me through this, because I think that's something that would be really good for our listeners.
So this is how we did it. On that particular time, this is how we did it. The person brought in a cloth ball, and she called that her weather ball. Okay. And what she says, when I pass the weather ball to you, I want you to describe for me the weather inside of you today. Okay. So when the ball came to me, I was like, well, it's raining and it's cloudy and there's all this water in, all over me. I can't see, it's just really rough. And I said, but the only thing I can see is one ray of light. And what I can tell is that the storm is the winds and the waves and the clouds are trying to cover up that ray. But no matter what everything does, the ray still shines through. And when I said that, I said, "Oh my Lord." And I got up from there, excused myself. I got up, I called a recruiter, I called Denise and said, "Okay, you got it. I'm taking the job." Because what that represented to me, I was looking for every kind of excuse not to see what I was supposed to see. The ray of light was, this is what I want you to do. Stop playing with me. And you're making every kind of excuse why this is not your job. This is a job I want you to do. So stop trying to play me. Stop trying to make every kind of excuse rain shower, every kind of excuse cloud, every kind of excuse wave, any kind of excuse. The ray of light, there ain't nothing you can do about this ray of light. And the ray of light is that I want you to go to Walmart. Period. Stop playing with me.
So you accepted the job, and how long have you been there now?
And I never slept better that night. That I had the best sleep of my life that night.
Wow. All because you pretty much decided to listen and surrender.
It's listen and surrender.
Well, you went with the flow of the river.
I went with the flow of the river. Yes, I went with the flow of the river. And so I've been with. It's interesting how we do things, right? Like we put all these ultimatums. So I get to, okay, I'm going to take the job, but I'm only here for 2 years. So Esther, decide what we're going to do for 2 years, because I'm out of here. 2 years pass. Okay, Esther, when you retire, I'm out of here. I'm here because I got your back. When you retire, I'm out of here. That was 6 years ago.
She retired 6 years ago?
Yes.
And how long you been there?
A total of 10 years, almost 11 years.
10 years, almost 11.
Yeah.
Wow.
December 16 will be 11 years for me.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And
when you went in, did you go in with the same title that you have now, or?
I went with a little higher title. Okay. When I left State Farm, I was an assistant director. When I got to Walmart, I was a director, and 6 months later, I was a senior director.
Wow.
So
look at that. That path of progression right there, just in 6 months. That was really where you were supposed to be at.
Yeah. Well, the reward, right? The reward for doing what you're supposed to do. Because the one thing that I've learned is that the plan is going to go through whether you do what your role in the plan or not. right?
So what would that mean? That somebody else would take the position?
No, who knows? Because the plan is good and the plan is perfect. What's going to happen is going to happen. What is meant to be is going to be. You don't have any power to impede what is to be. We try to pretend like we do. We believe that we do. But you can't, you have, it ain't about you. You ain't that big, bad, and bad. You're just not. You're just an instrument in the larger plan. And whether you play your role or not, the plan is going to come to fruition. My mother used to always say, and we talked about this earlier, right? My mother used to always say that that we are given two things when we are born. We're given a name and we're given an assignment that only we can accomplish in the greater good. That's what makes us special, is the assignment that's given to us. And our greatness will be determined on how courageous we are to take on the assignment that has been given to us. And so, you take on your assignment, the rewards come with that.
Right.
The rewards come with doing the assignment. But otherwise, whatever's gonna happen, what's supposed to happen is gonna happen. And so when you start thinking in that way, which is, when you start thinking about the river and about the assignment, you start operating in a very different fashion, and you look at things in a whole different way. And the things that may be important to others are totally unimportant to you. And the things that are important to you are usually the things that other people miss. They don't see it. And that's, and that's just unfortunate. That's just unfortunate. Right. But it's the way it happens. And so you stop looking at the what, you start looking at the why, right? So I don't question the fact that you and I are sitting right here today at this time. I don't question that at all. What makes a difference is what we decide to do with this time.
Right.
I think it was already destined centuries ago that on this day, you and I were going to have a conversation. Yeah. However, we get to choose what that conversation looks like.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It is why when I get on an airplane, I always speak to the person next to me. Always. Because I truly believe that we were destined to sit next to each other, whether we wanted to or not.
Right.
And this could be a wonderful opportunity or a wonderful missed opportunity. It's all up to me. I will tell you that two of my best friends in the whole entire world, I met sitting next to them on an airplane.
Tony, you got a lot of friends, man, and I appreciate that about you. I mean, you have this radiance about you and this contagiousness. I guess I gotta ask now. It sounds like you have a career that's 30+ years now in working in corporate America. Yeah. What have been?
I can't believe it.
Right, and I mean, you can't see it. I wouldn't be able to guess, man. You look very young. You look like you're in your 30s, and you talk about you got 30 years in the game.
Well, as another one of those wonderful Barbara Jean Motley Waller sayings, it ain't what they call you, it's what you answer to.
Hey, I like that.
So I don't. And your age is nothing but a number. It's just a number, and you get to decide what that number means. So I don't let anybody decide what my age, the definition of my age. I get to decide the definition of my age, which is nothing but a number. Now, granted, I'm not foolish. Physically, there are times that I feel my age.
Yeah.
But mentally, emotionally, I don't use a number to define how I feel, and so I just have a good time, live my life. So what are some of the? Can you give us like top 3 things that have helped you to navigate and have a successful career for 30 years and now be a senior director? What are 3 things that have helped you? One, the biggest one for me is living a very authentic life. Embracing all of who you are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Just doing with what you have, right? Now, I say that with a little bit of a warning. If you decide to truly be authentic, there will be times that your authenticity will reward you, and there will be times that your authenticity will be a liability to you. So, we were talking about those three things, right? And so for me, first is authenticity.
You said it will reward you, and then it'll also be a liability. But if you decide to be your true self, there's a cost, and you have to be okay with that cost, which is what I think often is a problem for many people. Many folks don't want to deal with the cost of it, and so therefore they become whatever other people want them to become, because they think that that's the way for them to advance and move forward and do their thing. And there's nothing, no judgments, on that for me. If it works for you, that's wonderful. It just never worked for me. I was never happy trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be. I've gotten all kind of criticisms on kind of things, a lot of very interesting feedback from people, but I've never let that stuff kind of deter me from being who I am. And how, with getting that type of feedback, I feel like oftentimes people, they adjust according to the feedback. What have been some of the ways that you've managed to not let that stuff dig in and get deep? To where it hinders you.
I know you're gonna be tired of me talking about Barbara Jean Motley Waller.
No, I'm not.
But Barbara Jean, my mother used to always say, always remember, baby, that there's a grain of truth in everything that people say, and you must search for that grain, and then you must decide whether you're going to keep that grain or not. She said it's just like an ear of corn. You got to shuck it away. You got to shuck all the stuff away from that ear, right? And then when you get to the kernels, you decide which kernels of that corn you want. The brown ones you don't want to eat, the yellow ones you do. Or the yellow ones you don't want to eat, the brown ones you do. Whatever it is, right? You get to decide which kernel of that corn is the right kernel for you. So that's what I've done. I analyze what people say, and what I truly believe is for me, I take. And what I truly believe is not for me, I dismiss. My favorite four words in the vocabulary are "thank you for noticing." I learned that from Barbara Jean too. Thank you for noticing. So you act interesting. Thank you for noticing. Or my favorite, one time I was in the evaluation, they said, if you just wasn't so childlike, thank you for noticing. That's an interesting tie you're wearing. Thank you for noticing. You look good, boy. Thank you for noticing. Because Barbara Jean would say this, it doesn't matter what other people think. You should love how you look, how you feel, how you are. And if you don't walk out that door. You shouldn't walk out the door not feeling right. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if people like it or don't like it, it's that they noticed. And she would say, if they got that kind of time to waste on you, they should waste it on you.
Now, let me ask you this, but what if somebody doesn't notice? Because now we're in the age of social media, and everybody has a false sense of, what do you want to call it, confidence.
Yes.
So what if people don't notice? We still need to keep that level of confidence. What would you suggest to somebody who might, be focused on or need that external validation?
One, I think it all starts with preparation first thing in the morning when you get up. I believe that you should have a ritual of physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, getting yourself together. However you want to do it. I mean, there are lots of different ways. I meditate first thing in the morning. I pray and meditate first thing in the morning. And I use that time to get myself in the right frame of mind. And so everybody does it differently, and there's no right or wrong way, but I think you have to find whatever tool and method that you can use to set your brain right, to set your spirit right. And you have to do it. And you find different ways, whether it's reading a book, certain books or writing. Some people, love having a gratitude journal. It was my mother. My mother always had a gratitude journal. And she would write something that she was grateful for every day. Right? I think there are just different ways of being able to do it. But you've got to take it upon yourself to make that happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what are two other ways?
Two
other things that you've done that have helped you navigate and have a successful career?
Number two for me is
understanding that there's true power in vulnerability.
Okay.
We grow up thinking that if I know a little something that you don't know, that makes me better. We grow up believing that I will share stuff with you, but I'll share just enough. But I got to keep a little something for myself because that's going to keep me ahead of everybody else, right? And that's unfortunately a lie. That is a lie. It is when you become vulnerable and you truly share all of who you are and are brave enough to share all of who you are that you really see great power. It is when you share all of who you are that people can't hold stuff against you.
Right.
They can't hold anything over you because everybody knows.
Right. You just wear it as armor.
You just wear it as armor. So, when I walk around and say, well, I sometimes got to watch myself because I trip people out, because I'm just kind of talking stuff, right? So I'll turn around and say, yeah, me and the guy that I'm dating right now had a fight last night, and I had to put him straight. And everybody's like, oh my goodness. He's talking about his sexuality, right? He just put it out there, right? Like you're not supposed to talk about that kind of stuff. Why not? It is who I am. Whether I love it or not, it is who I am. I mean, I have to embrace it, acknowledge it, right? So why should I have to hide it? There was a time that I wouldn't tell anybody about it, right? My answer would be like, they would ask, like, are you? And I'm like, why do you need to know? I get to decide who I answer that question to, using that as an excuse.
What helps you become, comfortable in sharing that aspect of your life? I feel like even now today, for some people, they don't necessarily feel comfortable sharing their.
I think for me, it was a combination of things. For me, it was a combination of I'm tired. I'm tired of holding out. Number two, living a life where I'm not sharing all of who I am. It goes back to the issue, the authenticity and the vulnerability. And trying not to be vulnerable, I didn't want to talk about it, or I wouldn't share, or I'd cover it up, or I lie, or whatever it is, right? And after a while, it just becomes tiring. And so I said, I don't want to do that anymore. And I owe that to my mother too. My mother one day said to me, baby, she said, I have come to understand that being gay is not a choice. And that was her kind of her way of saying, I just love you for who you are.
Right.
I have a very strong faith, and so does she. So did she. And that for me was always a conflict, right? My faith versus who I was. Because we're taught, right, that homosexuality is wrong. That it's a sin, that it's morally, it's morally bad, all that kind of stuff. I could never reconcile how a God who is perfect, who created me, created something that was imperfect.
Right.
That just didn't correlate. It goes back to what we talked about earlier, right? About, a God that creates great things. That if he is omniscient and omnipresent and omnipotent, he can only create greatness. So how could a God that creates greatness create this kind of imperfection of who I am, right? And that I just could not reconcile that. So for years I tried to fix it, right? Because I had a problem I needed to fix. And I went to all kind of doctors, and I did all kind of crazy therapists, all kind of crazy therapies, and all, I won't even go into what I did to try to fix it, right? Then when that didn't work, I decided I'm going to pray it out. And I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and cried and prayed, and God, you're going to change this,
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And one day in prayer, this is why this is so important first thing in the morning, right? When you prepare yourself. One day in prayer, I'm saying, God, I know what you can do. You've done it for other people. You have changed other people's lives. There are those that have said that you have taken away their homosexual tendencies and they feel cured, blah, blah, blah. And if you did it for them, you can do it for me.
Right.
And one day I'm saying that prayer, and I shut up because, prayer, Pete, this is the other thing we mess up on prayer, right? Just side note, we mess up on prayer. We don't understand that prayer is a conversation, which means that you talk a little bit
and you listen a little bit. You talk a little bit, and you listen a little bit. Prayer is a two-way conversation. So I prayed, and I shut up. And I could clearly hear, turn to 2 Corinthians 12.
Okay.
So I get my Bible, turn to 2 Corinthians 12. And for those Bible scholars out there, 2 Corinthians 12 is about the time that the Apostle Paul talks about his thorn in the flesh. And if you look at history, nobody knows what the real thorn is. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. Some say it was epilepsy. Some say it was, all kind of things. But in the chapter, it says, and the Lord, to keep me humble, gave me a thorn in the flesh. And 3 times I asked God to take away that thorn. And each time he responded, my grace is sufficient. In other words, this is what he meant. This is how I want you to be. Because then further he says, because in your weakness, I am strong. And so that was a revelation to me saying like, I ain't taking this from you. This is how I created you. Because this is how I'm utilizing you in my plan. Just like this. I need you just how you are to carry out my plan.
Right.
And you said that you would do what I asked you to do. So this is what you're going to carry. This is what you're going to deal with. Because this is exactly how I need you. And that was revelation number 1. That okay, that it's I am who I am because this is how I'm supposed to be. And then then right after that, my other best friend, Trish Smith. Trish Smith is one of the most amazing women I've ever met in my life. She is executive vice president for Edelman PR, one of the largest PR firm in the country. She's the highest ranking African American for Edelman, but she's also a pastor. She's also an ordained minister. Okay. She is the head of young adults. She leads young adults at Ebenezer AME Church in Fort Washington, one of the largest churches in the DC metro area. And she looked at me one day, almost in anger, and she says to me, "Tony, you have to be what God created you to be. Embrace who He created you to be. You are just what He wants, just like you are right now. Perfect. That's how He created you to be. Be who He created you to be. Yeah. And stop with this nonsense." Because I would have these conversations with her about, "Can't you pray with me? Can't we, She said, "No, didn't you just read 2 Corinthians 12? Like what? Like you didn't get this?"
Right.
Stop it.
Go with the river.
Right. Mama Jean. Yes, Mama Jean. Stop it. Be who you were created to be. And so that was the liberation for me. And so I embrace all of who I am. I am totally vulnerable. I am a Black, gay, Puerto Rican who loves God, who has an incredibly strong faith, and who believes that the plan for me is good and the plan for me is perfect.
Wow. So let me ask you this. What's that third thing that has helped you sustain and navigate through your career?
The third thing has been for me just being very, being very observant about what I do not see.
Ooh, break that down, please.
So it goes back to kind of when we were talking about the river, right? There are two worlds that we live in. We live in the world that we see and the world that we do not see. And the power is in the unseen. So in other words, you got to be careful how much credence you put into what you see, smell, taste, hear, feel. Those are all human characteristics. Human characteristics. And we know that being human is flawed, which means that our eyes sometimes see things that probably weren't what we saw, but we believe that's what we saw.
Right. Our perspective.
We smell things that we think we smell, but that's not really what we're smelling. We taste things that that leave a bad taste in our mouths, and all of a sudden we think it's a bad thing for us. We hear stuff that we probably shouldn't hear. All these things are flawed, right? But it's in the unseen. It's in the spiritual realm where perfection takes place, where you really see the real plan come into effect. So it's not about what happens. You need to be thinking about, why did it happen? What does it mean? Why did they say what they say? You should be asking all kind of questions, and stop taking at face value everything that you see, hear, taste, feel, smell. You have to understand why all of that is, and it takes a minute. And so you sit back and you think about it. So why did she say what she said? Why did he do what he did? Why? Instead of all automatically assuming that what they've done or what they've said, is significant. Most of the time, it's not what they said that's significant. It's why they said what they said is the significant part. And so, being very intentional of understanding more about what you do not see than what you see has really made a difference for me.
Okay.
I know it's a little on the deep side, ain't it?
No, yeah. I mean, that's amazing. I'm actually going to have to go back, re-listen, and decipher that. So I'll have some questions for you.
No, that's fine.
About that, man.
That's fine.
But one thing that I'm seeing here while we sitting here talking is that you've had the opportunity to have some really powerful women in your life that I've been hearing, and to me, it sounds like a great network of friends. How is it that you've obtained some of these friends? Can you tell us? And if you could go even a little bit deeper for some of our listeners who might be needing to change their circle, can you tell us a couple of ways that they can authentically go about building some better relationships?
I think, honestly, the opportunities are around us every single day and every single moment. If there is another person in the room with you, it is an opportunity. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to approach folks. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert.
So you say.
I really am. And so I've had to learn how to deal in this extroverted world. And so you have to force yourself to do the things that you're uncomfortable with doing. I used to play all kind of games, show up to a party or to an event or a reception or whatever, and I said, the first person I see with red shoes, I'm going to go and say hello. I used to make those mental games because otherwise, awesome. I would sit in the corner and just kind of like, I can't wait for this to be over and I want to get out of here, right? So you make little games like that. The first person I see with long earrings, I'm going to go say something to them. The first guy I see with no necktie on, I'm going to say something. And you just go speak. As soon as I sit next to somebody on the airplane, good morning, how are you? How's your day going? My name is Tony Waller. If it leads to something else and they have a conversation, great. If they don't, I've done my part. I made myself available and open for an opportunity. But you have a choice as well. You might not want the opportunity, and I have to be okay with that, right? And you have to become comfortable with rejection.
Oh yeah.
Meaning that sometimes somebody's not going to want to talk to you, and you have to be okay with that. Don't take it personal. They just don't want to talk to you. Move on. There are a whole bunch of other people that you can talk to. And eventually you're going to find somebody who really does want to talk to you and you want to learn from. The other thing I believe in is creating friendships or creating connections and relationships with those that you ordinarily would not create a connection with. And that sometimes means people who think very, very differently than you and whose views sometimes can be offensive to you. Okay. I'm not saying that you're going to be their best friend, but it's an opportunity for you to learn and be part of something that could be pretty interesting. I have had some of the most interesting conversation with individuals who will never be my friends because we just see things so differently.
Example.
I had a gentleman that I worked with, very prejudiced.
Okay.
Had very interesting views about black people.
Okay.
Who always felt very comfortable in talking with me and and explaining his views. I thought it was fascinating that he felt comfortable enough to be able to do that. I know for a fact that I had an impact on his life because I educated him on a few things in a very respectful way. I'm not, I didn't cuss the man out. I didn't do, I didn't, call him all kind of things. I let him say what he wanted to say because then it was my turn to be able to say what I wanted to say. I know for a fact that his life was changed because some of the things I said. And he even made some comments to that fact. Like, I used to think X, Y, and Z, but you've taught me something new. Like, I never thought about it that way. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned is that you don't know what you don't know.
Very true. You don't know what you don't know.
And often you don't know because you haven't had that experience. You know what you know based on your experiences, your education, your trials, your tribulations, your ups, your downs. That's what creates what you know. But if you haven't had certain experiences, I don't know anything about that man, that prejudiced man, and how he grew up and what he had to deal with. I don't know what that's like, but I got to learn what that was like because he told me and he shared it with me. Now I understand why you feel the way you feel. I get it now. I don't agree with it, but I get it, right? But now you're going to understand how I feel because this is how I grew up and this is what I went through and this is what, this is what my family was like and this is what I learned and this is why I am who I am today. I believe that we have to be courageous enough to have those kinds of conversations, that until we become that courageous, we will continue to see the problems that we have in this country.
Wow, man. So about you, how important has your peer group been for you on your journey of becoming, who you are? You've spoken a lot about some great people, but I haven't heard you speak much about your dad. And maybe his acceptance of you and your sexuality as well. If there's something that you care to share.
No.
Definitely scrap it from this.
No, look, I told you I believe in vulnerability.
Okay.
So, my dad and I had an interesting relationship. I've never doubted that my dad loved me.
Okay.
And I knew that because whatever it is that I wanted, he tried to make it happen.
Even as you were a man.
So when I was a kid, if I wanted to take piano lessons, he found a piano teacher and I was going to have piano lessons. If I said to him I want to be an astronaut, he would have been calling somebody to say, okay, how do I help my child learn about being an astronaut and helping him to do just that. Right? If I wanted to be an oceanographer, okay, so let's go to the beach. Let's find somebody who can help you with this. Those are the kinds of things that he would do for me because he wanted to make sure that we had it better than he did. Right. My father was a workaholic. He worked all the time, but it was all about providing what he never had. And that's all he knew how to make it. His success came from working hard all the time because he didn't graduate from high school. I told you, he dropped off at 7th grade. So he did not have the opportunity, right, to do what so many others had done, in his peer group. He had to make up for what he didn't have. And how he made up for it is that he worked very, very hard. And so he and I have always had a good relationship. I think sometimes it's been a strained relationship. My father today is, physically, he is very well. But mentally and emotionally, he's getting a little dementia. And my father never recovered from my mother's death. His heart has been broken from day one. And he's never recovered from that. That's probably been one of the hardest things that I and my sister and my brother have had to deal with because we've been trying to get him to, move on with his life and do good and, have a good time and, enjoy yourself. He's not interested in any of that because his wife is gone. The love of his life is gone. And so for him, he's just existing right now. And so we've had to come to peace with the fact that what we have to do from here on out, at the end of the day, he's 83. He's lived a good life. He should be able to live his life any kind of way he wants to live it from here on out. And so our task right now is to keep him safe and healthy and fed and comfortable. And that's what we do. And he's doing good. Sometimes he knows who I am, and sometimes he doesn't know who I am. Sometimes we have great, extensive conversations, and sometimes he don't want to say a word to you. And so we take it one day at a time, and I'm okay with that. And I love him. I love him dearly because I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for all of the sacrifices that he made. Again, I never questioned that he loved me. Now, did he love me like I wish he would have loved me? Probably not. But, I can't control what other people do. I can only control what I do.
Right.
And so I just make sure that he knows all the time that I love him.
Yeah.
And that's the best that I can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite quote or slogan that you live by? Or even scripture, if
You already know. You got to flow with the river because the river knows exactly where it's going.
Amen.
That's my favorite. That's what I live by. It's what I live by on everything that I do. Probably the other piece, and I can't quote it all, but there is this document called the Paradoxical Commandments. And it'll say, one of them is you may have the best intentions in what you do, but people will say that you are being self-serving. Do the best that you can do anyways. And so you can't let what others feel, you can't let what others believe have too much of an impact on what you know is to be true. Right. And so that's one. And then lastly, there's a saying that says, and this was Francis of Assisi said, preach the gospel at all times and when necessary, use words.
Action. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yes.
I like that.
Preach the gospel at all times and when necessary, use words.
Necessary, use words.
Yeah.
Who said that?
St. Francis of Assisi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, you like touch me in my soul.
I love that. And then one other one that I love is each of us is a word spoken by God only once.
Unique.
Meaning that we are all special and unique, and there's just absolutely no one like us. And it's the truth. You were given a name, and you were given an assignment that only you can accomplish. Spoken by God only once.
All right, Tony, and this is the question that nobody can escape the Create Your Life series without answering. I need 3 things from you. 3 things that you would tell someone who is looking to create their best life.
You are meant to be great. Never doubt that. It ain't what they call you, it's what you answer to. So don't believe the hype. People are going to try to define who you are. You have the power to define who you are. No one else has that power but you. You can give that power away to somebody, but they can't take that power away. They can't impact your power because it ain't what they call you. It's what you decide to answer to. Period. And what would be the third thing? Oh my goodness. So many things.
Well, I mean, you can give us 5. We're happy to.
You have. What would be a good one?
Whatever's on your heart, man.
The biggest thing for me. The other thing is never forget that it's not about you. It's not about your plan. It's about your role in the great plan. Rick Warren wrote The Purpose-Driven Life, probably one of the best books ever. Now, I don't agree with a lot of what Rick Warren says. He and I have different views on a lot of different things, but his book, The Purpose-Driven Life, is, I think, amazing, in particular the first chapter. And in that first chapter, he talks about how we pray incorrectly. Because in our prayers, we will say, God, please reveal my purpose. Show me what my purpose is. Tell me what my purpose is. It's not about your purpose. It's about his purpose and your role in it. Your prayer should be, God, show me your purpose, and then show me the role that you need me to play in your purpose. It ain't about you. It's about the purpose.
Wow. Tony Waller, thank you so much for being on the Create Your Life series, brother. It has been a blessing and an honor. I'm very excited about the release of this and, to get to know you more, man, and build. And you also a great brother, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
Nope, nope, nope.
Yo. So I'm definitely excited to continue our friendship, man, and thank you.
Absolutely, and I thank you for this opportunity. I'm humbled that you wanted to talk to little old me. I'm just a hoodlum trying to make it. I don't get that twisted at all. I am who I am because of everybody else around me. Yeah. And I just continue to encourage you to do what you are doing to fulfill your assignment, the assignment that has been given to you, and to be encouraged to do just that, and to do not let others dissuade you from doing what you know it is that you're supposed to do. Because I believe that if you do what you're supposed to do, that's when you will see your greatest reward. And so all the best to you, and the best is yet to come.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're amazing.
Go, man. You give me too much credit. You give me too much credit, man. I'm just a hoodlum trying to make it.
Hi, I'm Diane. I have a daughter, Nikki, and she's a senior at high school. She just got accepted for early decision into college. Prior to taking Kevin's program, we were pretty overwhelmed because her college debt after her merit scholarships looks like it's going to be about $150,000 in 4 years. Feeling pretty overwhelmed about that $150,000 potential debt, I decided to enroll in Kevin's debt-free College Academy full course program. And I have to say the value for the money for what we got out of the program was absolutely amazing. Kevin takes you step by step with many, many different tips and many different strategies for not only the student, but for us as parents, for our student, things that we can do to really help save money and prepare.
If you or your child are looking to save money on college costs, sign up for Debt Free College Academy today at debtfreecollegeacademy.com using coupon code FREECOLLEGE. Beautiful people, if you enjoyed this episode of the Create Your Life series, be sure to download it from our podcast, which is available on createyourlifeseries.com, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Music. Also, be sure to leave a review of the podcast. You can catch us live on Sundays from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via 90.3 FM in New York, or on Facebook Live at facebook.com/KevBrown1. We encourage you to participate in the conversation on Facebook or call in at 212-650-6903. Follow us on Instagram at CYLS Series and at Kevin Y. Brown. Be blessed, and we'll see you back here live next week.
Create your life.
Crée ta propre vie.
Create your life.
创造你的生活。
Create your life.
Crea la tua vita.
Create your life.
Und skip your liver.
You better create your life.
Create your life.
Create la vie.
Create your life.
Create your life.